Well, they did it. The complete and utter character assassination of a beloved character in this show. Now, you all know who've been following my reviews. Well, honestly, since if you've been following this channel in general, you know that my favorite X-Men character, my favorite Marvel Comics superhero in general is Rogue, and that I have not been happy with how she's been portrayed in X-Men 97, but I had a little hope there for a second in episode 7 where I thought we were finally going somewhere, where the character would finally maybe be written in character. Nope. This is the single worst adaptation of this character that I have ever seen in anything, across comic books, across cartoons, in anything. I would like to issue an official apology to the Fox movies. I will never complain about what they did with the character in the Fox movies again after this. This is by far the worst, by far and away, a million miles away, the worst adaptation of this character that I have ever seen. So, to review, the show started out by not really giving the character any scenes apart from retconning in one of her worst storylines in the comics ever, her worst relationship with, which was the Magneto Rogue stuff, and it was retconned into the show because it had no business being there. It was not there in the original. She literally said she did not care about him when he died in the original show. It could not be there. The version of the character from that show and that version of Magneto would never have been a thing. They were not compatible with each other. In order to do this relationship as it's been in the comics, you've always had to change her character in order to try to make the relationship happen in any sort of fashion. And then she wasn't really in the show at all, apart from alluding to this out-of-character relationship. Then in episode 5, we see her being taken completely out of character, being kind of doe-eyed and naive about Magneto's vision of the future, as if the character would ever be that way. We have her having secret affairs behind people's back. We have a 5-season retcon now, supposedly, that this character kept this a secret this entire time, even though there's 2 telepaths that she's living with. So now she's the character having secret affairs. Then in episode 5, we retcon in, which has never been done in the comics before, that Magneto and Rogue had a teacher-student to lovers relationship. I'm sorry, I just gagged a little bit. You know, that was their relationship, which gives me just grooming vibes through the entire thing. The show never acknowledges that whatsoever, though. She then is character assassinated again by telling Gambit that she doesn't feel like they can be together because she is not satisfied with the fact that they cannot touch. Complete rewrite of the character in the comics, in the animation. You know, this is said in the comics as much as Batman's parents' death is brought up, that the reason why Rogue is afraid to get close to people is she's afraid of hurting them. She doesn't want to get close to Gambit because she was traumatized by what happened with her first boyfriend, and she does not want to hurt him or potentially kill him. She has said this in comics over and over and over again. That was why their relationship wasn't happening. The show has changed it so now it's about what she wants. It's not about protecting other people. It's about that she is not satisfied with the fact that they cannot touch. So, twists a nice knife in his heart over that. Naively goes Magneto, who is clearly manipulating her in this situation, which is acknowledged. She goes into like an erotic dance with him in front of Gambit at the event that he's going to be at, even though she knows that it's going to hurt him. Also, that she can figure out for herself, oh, actually, touch isn't what I thought it was. It's not everything, which I don't think the character would need to go through that arc in the first place and learn that in the first place, but she's played Gambit. Now she's played, as much as I hate Magneto in this context, because he seems like a groomer character, she played him as well in that situation, and then, they made the character look so bad throughout all of that. You know, you have to walk a fine line between, this character is desperate for touch, but you can still make them look bad or selfish in that context. But then, after that, I had hope. I was like, it's done. The bad retcon love triangle stuff is done. We'll move forward after this, and finally in episode 7, we started to get her a little bit more of herself. I thought, I'm like, I buy that the character is this upset. I buy that she's grieving. I buy that maybe she would go to a darker place. Then episode 8 had her inexplicably in a coma the entire episode because they clearly did not know what to do with her, and it still is not explained now why she was in a coma for so long. Then we get to episode 9, and I said the entire time, the worst thing that you could possibly do with this character in this situation is have her go back and team up with Magneto. Go back and team up with the guy that she twisted a knife in Gambit's heart over because she's grieving him. And so she goes back to the guy that she destroyed him over because as a way to avenge him, I guess. But at first I was like, no, that would be so bad. That would be so terrible for the character that they will not do that. And then started getting indications on social media because Beau DeMayo has been tweeting about everything. He kind of spoiled it that she would do it, so I was prepared for it. And yes, she joins with Magneto in this episode and not even regresses. She becomes a character that she has never been. But then again, she's been out of character this entire series, really. But here's the thing about Rogue. She was never an evil character. When she was joined with Mystique, she was just a misguided teenager. She never meant any harm. She never was evil in that sense. This just has her, like, she gives this speech to Xavier as she's joining Magneto and is like disparaging the other X-Men and saying Storm wasn't even there. And I'm like, who is this character? Even in the grief that she's supposed to be having, I do not buy her abandoning them like this. She says things that are blatantly untrue, like you guys didn't see the destruction on Genosha. Nightcrawler was there, and she abandons her brother as well. You know, her words to Storm, it's like, did you forget the friendship that these characters have had in the original show? Did you, she gives a speech to Charles, it's like, if only you treated us as people and not your students. It's like, he helped you this entire time with your abilities to the best of his ability. What are you talking about? It was complete character regression. And once again, what makes it so bad, because I think that they tried to retcon in all the Magneto stuff to try to justify her joining him, but that is what makes it so bad, because it's like you twisted the knife in Gambit's heart once again over Magneto. He died thinking that he had nothing, not knowing that she had rejected him, at least in a romantic sense, ultimately. And you're upset about that, so you're going to join with a guy that you broke his heart over in order to avenge his death. And people talk about the symbolism of, oh, she was wearing his jacket and she took it off when she joined Magneto. But I'm like, I don't buy that she would do this. I was just waiting for this whole time for there to be like one, come to God moment where she thinks about, is this really what Gambit would want for her? You know, cliched as it is, but that's how I would expect the character to go. But no, this entire version of the character has been out of character from the beginning. I don't know what they were thinking. I am convinced of two things. The first one is less likely, that they outright hate the character in the show. Not likely. What is more likely is they just did not know what to do with her and didn't understand her, and there is precedent for that. I was reading an interview before the show even came out with Beau DeMayo, where he was talking about how he had a very hard time writing Rogue's dialogue, and how her story evolved in a way that he didn't expect, and that how Charlie Feldman behind the scenes has been a great advocate for her character. And, mind you, this was before I knew anything that had happened on the show. That was going to happen, but I always just thought it was odd. Like, why would you deflect to saying that somebody else on your team is a big advocate for the character if you yourself are not? And Charlie Feldman, by the way, wrote the only episode where I thought Rogue was even a little bit in character, in episode 7. But even then, in episode 7, we didn't get much for her. In this episode, for all my ranting about it, she's barely in it. So it just feels like you had no idea what to do with this character, so this is what you did. You completely assassinated her. And, I was talking to my sister, who's been on this channel before, and she kind of said it best, that the problem with Rogue this entire series is that every decision she makes has been for selfish reasons. It's always based on what she's feeling in the moment, and that is not the character, and that is my big problem with it. And, you know, I'm ranting about this for like 9 minutes now, but this is supposed to be a review for the episode. But the thing is, the episode apart from that is good. Like, I didn't like it as much as I did the last episode. You know, it might be because, and this might be because like the showrunner has just been spoiling things on Twitter left and right, but everything that happened in this episode, even the Rogue stuff, was a bit predictable for how this show has been. So I wasn't really surprised by anything or excited by it. I was excited by one part when Wolverine stabs Magneto. I legitimately smiled. I'm like, yes, we're done with this guy finally. But no, we're not done with him yet. But that was a great moment. I did like seeing the classic suits in motion. I liked the stuff with Scott and Jean and Charles because I think that especially Scott and Jean are really well done in this show. I think it's going to be interesting how they wrap it up. Those characters have not been assassinated whatsoever. Scott and Jean stay together. I think that Jean might end up becoming Phoenix at the end of this show. And Magneto, he, apart from the Rogue stuff, is very well written and interesting. It's just that part of it that I don't like about it. So it's a good episode once again, apart from, but as for me, if it's my favorite character who's getting the shaft, then I am going to be a bit upset about that. But there were other flaws with the show. For example, I don't think that Sunspot has been very well developed throughout this series. He also joins with Magneto, and that just did not feel developed. I mean, maybe because Magneto is the only person he knows apart from, and he doesn't know Charles at all, that would happen. But he just has gone from like not having a stake in any of this to joining with the worst guy. And as he fights in the fight scene, he kind of relinquishes that. Like he is nervous about hurting Jubilee, and it's like it doesn't feel like as hard as he even in this. And I just don't feel like this has been a very well developed version of the character. At least he has a moment of regret, which Rogue doesn't have at all. Once again, even in all her grief, I cannot agree with her abandoning her friends like that. And it's interesting. Jean and Storm get a great moment in the show where it really goes into their sisterly bond, but there's other relationships, like Storm was very, very close with Gambit. In the comics, they're best friends. In the show that was alluded to, she is the one who brought him on the team. She doesn't react to his death at all. You know, similarly, forgetting the bond between Storm and Rogue, it's like some of the stuff that they bring forward is there, like Jean and Storm, and it's great, and other stuff is just completely abandoned. And, you know, the fight scenes in this show are great. I think that the animation is great, and we'll see what this finale does if it sticks the landing. But man, as this show has reinvigorated Cyclops and Jean, especially Cyclops, bringing that character popularity, it has really flushed Rogue down the drain, because it's like she was the MVP of the original show. The 90s version, the 92 version of the X-Men was the best version of Rogue, the best adaptation. And there was a reason, you know, with all that silly controversy about people talking about Rogue being nerfed in this show before it came out, you know, as silly as that was, it was an example that Rogue was a character that a lot of people recognized from the original show, that a lot of people liked. And now, like, I'm either seeing no one talk about the character, or that if they do, it's probably negative, because she's been given the worst portrayal in this show, where she's barely been in it. What she has been in has been out of character, where she just seems like she's a naive, awful person. And that's important, because if Gambit does end up coming back in the next episode somehow, as has been teased, it's like Rogue is not the person he loves. And I would argue she hasn't been that way in the show at all. And so it's like, how can you patch up that relationship now after you've taken this character to the worst place possible? Because I guess that was my hope after episode 5. Like, you can patch up Rogue's character, you can patch up this relationship, but now it's kind of just been tainted. So that is my big disappointment, and it's disappointing because I don't know how long it's going to be. We're going to have somebody fix Rogue's character now, just like Cyclops needed to be fixed after how bad this show has been to her, and I don't know how long it's going to be before we get that. I don't even know if she's going to be on people's priority list after seeing she was clearly not on anyone's priority list with this show. Other than that, 7 out of 10 episode. I would like to say though, I think that Magneto probably killed a lot more than just thousands of humans with his EMP crashing planes and shutting down hospitals. I'm pretty sure a whole lot of mutants died in that too. So that also does not make sense with his rationale or the rationale of the characters who join him. But um, at least we only have one more episode of Stress 97, and we can go back to reading some very enjoyable, non-stressful comics. What did you think about this episode? Did you enjoy my rant? Thank you for watching. Thank you, patrons, for supporting this channel. And I will see you guys next time with one more review for X-Men 97. Thank you.